Hey everybody, this is Dave Cooper and we are live in Las Vegas at Boxabl, and standing with me is Galiano Tiramani, who is a founder of Boxabl along with your father. We are standing in the casita model, and today not only are we going to give you a little bit of a tour of the casita, we're also going to give you a tour of the factory, and it is being set up. There's people working all over the place, so it might get a little noisy on occasion, and there's product everywhere here. So, and after today's show, we're going to release a complete review on this model, a complete walkthrough with Jennifer and myself. Galiano, who wakes up and says, I'm going to build a folding house?
Yeah, Dave. Well, thanks for coming to Vegas, and it's good to be on your show. You know, several years ago, we woke up and we thought just that, and really it was a way to kind of try to make housing compatible with mass production, something that hasn't really worked very well to date, and hopefully we can have a really big impact on housing affordability. So yeah, this is the Casita, our flagship product.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's built like a brick, whatever, house or what have you. I mean, it's solid like a tank. And speaking of tanks, there's tanks right outside the back door here. You're next to the military installation. Let's talk about this model in particular. What is it exactly?
So we plan a building system. This is the smallest room module in our building system. So it's just fitted out as a little studio apartment. It's got kitchen, bathroom, bed and couch, everything you need. And this is the initial product that we'll be going out with. So, it's a really nice feeling to it. It's got high 9.5-foot ceilings, which you don't always get from the video, but it's very different when you stand inside of it. So really nice, and people seem to love it online.
Sure. And does it come with all the appliances? You got refrigerator in here, we got the stove. I mean, you got lights in the cabinets, and these are actually really nice cabinets.
Yeah, so basically everything we can cram into it when we ship it, we'll ship with it, the unit. So what happens is the whole room folds up, and kind of all the empty space folds up. So imagine there's no furniture in here, there's no bed or couch, you just have this empty room. That's all gonna fold up, and it's gonna fold down to about here, and that way we can finish all this stuff in the factory. So like 5 feet by the length of the unit, we can finish anything in the factory. In this one, it's kitchen and bathroom.
And this one is kitchen and bathroom. You can't see it behind the camera guy, but we're going to show you. I mean, there's a bed, there's a fireplace in here, you got a couch in here, you got beautiful windows, and the bathroom is gorgeous. I mean, that's like a 5-foot shower.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really spacious. We worked really hard to get the max possible dimensions and not compromise on the space and still make it shippable. So that's so important, and we think that's the reason that factory-built housing has never really taken off or taken market share. It's just so expensive to ship the buildings. So our initial innovation was make them shippable, and so now they are.
Sure. And the cost on something like this right now is going for what?
So we're planning to retail this for $50,000, and we'll be opening to the public hopefully sometime early next year after we deliver on our initial orders.
Sure. And the delivery process on this is the truck rolls out, you take it off the truck, it unfolds. Site work still needs to be put in place, correct?
Yeah, so you'll need to prepare, in most cases, a foundation and utilities to connect to, and then this will be dropped off and you'll unfold it on the foundation. It should only take a few hours to come together and plug into utilities, and then you're good to go. We've really gotten everything we possibly could done in the factory.
Right. The interesting part about this journey for you, and we spoke a little bit yesterday, was how surprised you were from the support that you had from people all around the world, social media, in the money you've been raising to do this. Tell us a little All right. Hey, everybody. We are live at Boxabl. You were catching some of the beginning intro we were doing at the casita. I was hanging out with Galiano. Galiano, I mean, behind us is the start of a pretty big production facility happening at the moment, which I think is amazing. We did a little pre-recording of the casita prior to coming here for whatever reason. That's still sitting where it's sat. But we're going to really get into this now, and let's start talking about what's happening here at the factory and really what problem are you solving?
Yeah, so the goal of the company is housing affordability. We want to make, building construction dramatically more affordable all around the world. It's a really big plan and big vision, and this is just the start. We're kind of starting pretty big here in this big building. But compared to where we want to be, it's very small. We think that by making buildings work in the factory, making production of buildings work on the assembly line, we are going to be able to change everything. Right. This is really the last big modern product that's not built in a factory. Everything else we use, cars, sneakers, television, all of it, it's built on an assembly line. So we enjoy the benefits of those principles. And that just hasn't translated into housing. They're still building by hand. 90% of buildings are built by hand. It's incredibly slow and inefficient. And one of the kind of examples I like to use is, imagine that you ordered a car and some guys arrive in your driveway with a bunch of pieces of metal and welding torches and hammers, and they start building that thing in your driveway. That seems totally crazy. Of course, it would take forever. It would be incredibly expensive and probably poor quality. But that's how housing's done. Everyone's used to it. We think nothing of it. So if we can just make this work in the factory, it's going to lead to incredible, mass production of buildings that's never been done before, incredible cost savings, incredible quality increases, different ratings increases. There's just so much we can do. And we think we've kind of solved all the problems that have stopped it from working in the factory, right, and are, hopefully leading up to a really big scale.
Yeah, for sure. So listen, if you are just joining us, we are live in Las Vegas at Boxabl, and standing with me is one of the founders, Galiano Tiramani, who is a mastermind behind a lot of the equipment you're going to see behind us today. We also have done a full live review, Jennifer and I, of the casita model, which we started off in the beginning of the video. We're going to put that video up as well. So you're going to get the full vision of everything that we are seeing here. Not only that, we're going to give you our honest opinion and our honest review of the casita model. And you might be surprised what we have to say. So, Galiano, we were talking about it earlier at the casita. You wake up, you have this idea, you and your dad, to pull all this together, and your dad's going to join us. Paolo is going to join us here in not too long. Where did it begin? Tell us on the journey, like, how did you take it from an idea to paper to now a couple 100,000 square feet of manufacturing facility?
Yeah, sorry, there's a little fly there flying around. So, we started working on this kind of 2017, really getting in there and figuring things out. What wasn't obvious at the beginning was all the problems. So it took a while to figure out what that was, what the issues are, where the friction points are, why things aren't done the way that maybe they should be done. And, as we kind of went through it and started figuring that out, it directed the development of the product. And, of course, everyone sees online the shipping solution, which is kind of clear and obvious and really a game changer to make it possible to produce in the factory. But beyond that, under the hood, there's a whole lot more innovation here. Basically, nothing left for the most part from traditional construction in our buildings.
So when you say that traditional construction, nothing about the process here. I mean, some of the lamination and materials you're using is traditional, but the thought process on how it all goes together is not. You still have a lot of manual, things happening on your production line, but you're also at a price point of $50,000 for that casita. Is that part of the whole, let's grow into this and build up to it so we can keep our price point down, so we can keep it affordable, so we can put a good product out the door, if not great products?
Yeah, so this kind of starter factory that we're doing here, it has a lot of manual processes in it. And that's because we have to figure things out on a basic level before we start adding in that automation. We have to make sure that the product and the process is going to stay the way it is, and then we'll start adding in that automation as soon as it makes sense. But we do get the advantage of using a lot of off-the-shelf automation. For example, all of the subcomponents we have are pretty much all processed by CNC, computer cutting, forming equipment into very accurate tolerance components that can then kind of assemble together rapidly. And then, you know, beyond that, there's a whole bunch of custom automation that will integrate in later. And, you know, the big picture there is this is a 170,000 foot factory. What you need to do a full automated automobile style mass production is a multi-million square foot factory, a $1 billion factory. And we think we'll get there as soon as we prove things out here. And most importantly, the product is engineered to be compatible with all that. Whereas the lumber stick framing, that's traditional construction and traditional modular construction, it doesn't really work that well with the automation, and that's kind of why it hasn't been done yet.
Right. So, customers, where's your shipping radius? Where are you going with what's here right now?
So, really huge interest on the customer front. First order is for the federal government, and then beyond that, we'll see, you know, kind of who's first as far as the rest of the customers. The product, you know, it can ship anywhere. You know, the most important thing is that we got it down to just a highway legal standard load, so it can be compatible with all the shipping infrastructure that exists for everything else. And we don't have these costs associated with the oversized buildings. How far we ship, I think, you know, everything we build in this factory, which is thousands of units, it'll probably all get eaten up right next door here. And then, you know, shipping does cost money. We have the best case for shipping, but it still costs money. So sending it, you know, to the other side of the country may or may not make sense depending on like the local market, the cost, the need of the customer, the speed they want. So we'll see how that all plays out. But, you know, it's definitely, you know, shipping super important. And the situation we have here where not only is it a legal load, 8.5 feet wide, it's also fully finished, so kitchen, bathroom, everything is done in the building. And on top of that, we're actually shipping 20 feet of footprint, 20 feet of you know, wide of building on that 8.5 footprint. So it's a pretty amazing situation to get into.
And as people were saying in the intro when we were standing in the beginning of the show, inside there, I mean, that's pretty much how it comes, you know, minus, you know, where the mate walls and where it folds, but all of that product's still off to the side as well. Were you surprised on how the tiny home movement kind of picked up on what you guys were doing?
Yeah, and you know, when we got started with Boxabl, we didn't start with a small house or a tiny home. We actually started with bigger units. Our first units were about 800 square feet each. The first prototype we built was like a 1,600 square foot house. And then we started to think about it and said, what's a smart place to start? You know, where are there lower barriers to entry? Where is there a growing market demands? And the tiny house thing just made so much sense. And once we announced this product and got in front of some of those, you know, tiny house fans, they went crazy for it. That was how things got started on social media. Early on, someone shared our video on a channel that was devoted to tiny houses, and that was like our target audience right there. So all of a sudden, you know, web traffic and inquiries picked up, and then it just kind of snowballed from there.
With every new startup, you know, and new idea, there's always issues, problems. What were some of the issues, problems, maybe surprises that you had along the way that you weren't expecting outside of building officials?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, whole lot of stuff. You know, everything you can imagine, you know, goes wrong whenever you're doing a business. And the most important thing is just to be persistent and keep going and never stop. So, you know, everything you can imagine has basically happened. You know, I'll tell one funny story. One of our earlier trade shows that we did where we had those bigger prototypes was in Las Vegas. And, you know, Las Vegas is in the desert. And, you know, we didn't expect any bad weather. So, yeah, so this prototype we had, it didn't have a roof on it. And there was just a big gap in the ceiling because we were showcasing everything else. So, you know, the morning of the show, it snowed in Las Vegas, which doesn't happen a lot. So then we ended up with snow on the roof. The sun came up, it melted, it started flooding the whole unit, and it was horrifying. I was up there with like a broom at like 6 in the morning trying to broom all the snow off, but we ended up getting it dried off and cleaned up, and the show opened and no one noticed. So that was pretty cool. You know, many other things, of course. Lately, supply chain disruptions have been really difficult, but we've navigated them all. Everything from the equipment being delayed because the supplier couldn't source steel or whatever else, to us having to pay premiums on raw materials, shipping delays where you have shipping container delays, some things just not being available. Like, for example, electrical wiring. We had to buy a significant amount of electrical wiring for the first order that we have, and it just wasn't available anywhere from any suppliers. So we ended up going to Home Depot and buying out the whole store because that was all we could do. So that stuff is getting a little better now, and as we gear up, we'll be more prepared for that in the future. But getting started, it's been a challenge to navigate all that.
Yeah, well, I'm sure, with supply chain, with COVID, all of the different aspects that have hit, any startup at this point coming through. Going back to the snow on the roof, right? Let's talk about snow loads for a second. I don't mean that in the sense of Las Vegas snow loads, but the materials you're using are actually, if anything had to get wet, at least it was a casita, right, material versus any others. Like you said, you cleaned it off, and we talked a little bit about this on how it stands up to weather and humidity and water better than most other structures.
Yeah, very water resistant. We're not using sheetrock. We're not using common lumber that would traditionally rot or mold. So really, really nice. And we were able to just wipe it off, and it was good to go, and no one knew. I think we're planning actually to do kind of a funny promotional video pretty soon where we put a big inflatable pool inside the house and just splash and make a mess everywhere. But yeah, the building, has a lot of things that are better than traditional buildings. Right. And that's the result of, years of research and R&D and testing, where we had all these different requirements for building code, for strength, for safety, for water, for fire, wind, energy, all those different things. They don't always align. So, you might try to make the building stronger, but then it becomes much heavier, and that's a problem. Or, maybe you want to make it cheaper, but then it's not as energy efficient. So, it was a big balancing act. And what we've come up with now is really amazing, and it fills all those needs. It exceeds all the standard requirements of traditional buildings. We'll be publishing third-party data on that to prove all those claims, and it's going to be really great for our marketing soon. So we're really excited about that. But it's been a great journey. And one of the reasons we wanted to make the building so much better and stronger in all these different areas was so that we could have one solution, one building type that works everywhere and scales everywhere, versus right now, different areas, they use different building materials and there's different requirements. So if you're building a building in Florida, it might be built for high winds. If it's San Francisco, it might be built for earthquakes. We wanted one product that works everywhere. And what we've come up with, it hits them all. And that means, first and foremost, it's very low cost and rapid to manufacture. And then beyond that, we've kind of been able to tweak all the engineering and outperform on everything else. So we're really excited to kind of shake up the market when we release this product.
Yeah. And so let's I want to touch on a couple of things here. You said, third party. With any new product, any new type of build coming to market, third-party approvals, local building official approvals, getting those inspections is part of, I guess, the struggle, so to speak. How are you doing with that? Are you finding any pushback?
Yeah, so tremendous amount of regulations surrounding building construction, and it's at every level, federal, state, and local. Because the local governments use this as a major source of tax revenue, they're meddling in it, every chance they get. Sure. So it's very difficult to navigate. And, it kind of makes sense that it's like that, because right now you have all these independent actors, all these different builders, all doing different stuff. So no one's really necessarily accountable. And, there's, high likelihood of bad craftsmanship that can result in problems. So there's a lot of stuff around it. Hopefully, if we create, a national brand where we're well known for high quality, et cetera, those restrictions can be reduced a little bit. But immediately we'll be part of the state's modular housing programs, which are very nice and something that is far less burdensome than I would have expected. It really consists of two main components. One is testing. So every test you can imagine, we're doing on the house. So that's like building panels, breaking them, lighting them on fire, water intrusion, everything you can imagine. We test it so that then we can say, yes, this meets or exceeds the requirements for building code to create a safe building. Beyond that, what traditional buildings are inspected, at multiple times during the process on the site. Like walls are kept open and then the inspector comes and looks at electric, for example. So because we're building them all in the factory, they're not able to be inspected on site. So therefore we need a third-party inspector in the factory. So all of our buildings will be inspected by the third-party inspector, and that satisfies the building department regulations. And it's really a great situation for everyone, especially our customer, because now they're going to have way less interactions with that building department. They're going to maybe have one final inspection and that's it. They're not going to have multiple inspections. They're going to have plans that are pre-approved at the state level, and just a lot of benefits to these modular programs.
Well, there is a lot of benefits to it because the third-party inspections are all happening mainly here in the facility, and you have a third-party agency that is looking at all that. But for the consumer, it's a really great thing because not only are they looking at it, typically the building departments are looking at it as well, and you are getting some final walkthrough inspections on site. But you still have your site work with these that one still has to put in place, foundation, plumbing, sewer, water. So that still has to happen, and those inspections happen regularly. But you're right, it cuts probably 3/4 of the inspections out.
Yeah, it's a very nice situation.
Super nice. So we're going to take a walk on the factory floor down through this area here. And as we're doing it, let's talk about some of the efficiencies you were speaking of as far as how this goes together and why it can go together. So I don't know if easily is the way to put it, but you're using a lot of precision CNC parts that you have outsourced and are bringing in-house as you grow, but you're outsourcing. So all this stuff really is an assembly line, not a manufacturing line.
Yeah.
Is that a good way of saying it?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything is standardized and repeatable. So we will get more and more efficient as we go. We'll get faster and better at things, and we'll dial it in and refine that assembly line on an ongoing basis.
And I think once we walk through the line, we'll come back. Your dad will be with us then. So when we come back here, he can join us. I have a feeling like, he's a lot of brains behind this operation.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Does he know that we're going to jump the pickup truck off the loading dock yet?
Usually you would hide that from your dad, but I think he might be driving the truck off the jump.
If you'd like to see us jump a pickup truck off the loading dock, please make about a $50,000 donation. I'll give him the link, and we'll go drive it off. I think he's serious. It's making me a little nervous.
Yeah, we're doing it.
All right. So, hey, everybody, we are live right now, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. If you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, we have been traveling the country, coast to coast, in a motorhome, going to only the places showcasing people that are doing it better. We have been to 3D printed homes. We have been to modular manufacturers. We have been to fully automated home building manufacturing facilities. And now we are in Las Vegas at Boxabl with Galiano, talking about how we're going to make affordable housing, $50,000, right? $50,000, and wait until you see the review Jennifer and I do on this home, delivered to your doorstep and up in one day. So with that said, why don't we hop and go through the factory tour here real quick and just kind of show a little bit of the lamination process. There's a good portion of the factory. We're still working on some IP, so we'll beat it out of it. And then you might as well think about it now. I'm going to ask you about Elon Musk. Everyone wants to know about Elon Musk. He's going to spill the beans by the end of this show. So why don't we go this way? We'll switch cameras here and we'll walk over. So as we're walking, Josh, why don't you show some of the stuff that we have here? What are we looking at right now?
Yeah, so what we're doing is a laminated panel process. So it's a composite panel where we basically glue different substrates together. And by doing it that way, we were not only able to increase the ratings on various things, as I mentioned before, but also dramatically simplify. So now we have much bigger pieces that kind of assemble together rapidly. So we've gone from, hundreds of little pieces of wood and thousands of nails down to just these big blocks that are precision cut in the CNC and then rapidly laminate together.
So these machines right here, and I don't know if you can see some of this, but basically what's happened, there's some panels down there we'll show. The panel's laying down. This is going to come across. It's going to lay the glue down, and then you're going to put another panel and then another panel sandwiches it to another set of glue, and then a panel sandwiching it together. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So we will, rapidly assemble these substrates on this conveyor, and then we get to a really, high level of finished panel as soon as it comes off this line, and that's all, one single big wall panel is all laminated in one piece. So we're not making smaller little panels and kind of splining them together later. For example, the front wall of the casita, let's say that's 10 feet by 20 feet. That will all be in one big piece on this and assembled at one time. And what these do here is let's say we lay down the outer board for the outer wall. And then this passes over and extrudes polyurethane adhesive. And the polyurethane adhesive is really amazing because what happens is it's a chemical reaction that results in an irreversible curing of the glue. So once it cures, it never goes back. You know, you can heat it up, it's not going to melt, anything like that. And basically, you know, you're going to end up with this mechanical bond throughout the whole thing. So you can imagine, you know, when the glue goes in there, it eventually goes into a press and the glue kind of expands and it seeps into all the micro cracks in the substrate, and then it grabs into them and then it hardens. And that's kind of equivalent to, you know, a nail or a screw, but thousands of them everywhere. So it becomes incredibly strong, and we love the laminated panel technology. You know, our core innovation is shipping, and then beyond that, we have a lot of other innovations. The shipping thing, that's always going to be there. We can change everything else about the building anytime we want, and we'll probably continue to do that as we go forward and have next generations of the product, just like any other, you know, product like an iPhone or a car that has a different version every couple of years.
Right, and everything's going to go through its iteration, and it should. I mean, we should always be moving forward. Our industry doesn't think that way, typically, everyone. Usually we're stuck 150 years behind, but we're not anymore. We are moving forward. We are going to take it to the next level. We are going to figure out this housing affordability issue, and we are going to hopefully figure out this supply chain issue. So if we go up here a little further, we can see some of these panels, but before we show the panels, every piece that you bring in that's going to run down this line is already precision manufactured, right? And you have the big, I see you got the big vacuum picks that, so there's no manual lifting this stuff up and slopping it down. You have the machines to do it. This all just goes together like a crossword puzzle. Yeah, really nice. So all the materials that go into it are auto fed into CNC machines, cut, and then spit out the other end. Then they're brought over here where they kind of rapidly assemble together in a precision manner. Right now, we do have these vacuum lifting systems, but as soon as it makes sense, we're going to be swapping those out for the robot arms, and then this process should be incredibly fast where wall panels are just turning out. Sure. And so what is this material that I'm looking at right here? So this is what we've chosen for the interior wall in place of sheetrock. It's really amazing stuff. You know, as you just lifted it, it's just really strong and flexible. Sheetrock would have snapped maybe right there, huh? Yeah, definitely would. And then we picked this because it has a lot of benefits over sheetrock, and that is, you know, not only the strength. The strength means that you can throw a screw in anywhere on the wall. You don't have to find a stud because that can hold a few hundred pounds per screw. So that's really nice. Then the combustibility on it. Sheetrock is rated non-combustible, but it is technically combustible. This stuff is not. This stuff will not burn, will not, you know, ignite. Then beyond that, it's very water resistant. So that was the real reason why we loved it, because water damage and mold growth in houses is a big health problem, and it's nasty. So these things, you know, this is going to make that house. So if it gets wet, if it floods, the water drains out, and it's good to go. It's not as damaged as a traditional house might be. Yeah, for sure. Let's keep walking. Is it airtight? I mean, it might be going to Mars, right? I can't talk about Mars or anything like that. Are you crazy? So, all right, so we'll walk down a little bit further. Now, I mean, we're surrounded by metal here, so hopefully we got the signal up high enough and we're not getting stuck. What are these machines? They look like they move, right, up and down? Yeah, so as we were exploring the equipment to do the laminated panel process, we looked at many different things, many different ways to do the process, and actually bought and tested out different equipment as we went forward, and we ended up settling on this piece. It's really amazing. We absolutely love it. It's going to allow us to crank out panels so fast. What this is a multi-story vacuum press. So as part of that glue curing process, you have to put a lot of pressure on the panel to lock it into place because the glue expands and you don't want it moving around. So different ways to achieve that pressure, the PSI that you need. One way is with vacuum. So pretty cool. Basically, you know, this lines up with the conveyor, it opens up, a panel slides in, it closes, and a vacuum is put on it, and then it's secured. I got it. All right, so just here, stay right there. So basically, everything comes down this line here, right? This is moving up. It takes a panel, that line keeps moving. It doesn't stop because it's only one panel.
Yep.
And you keep feeding the panels like pancakes.
Yep.
This is vacuum suction, everything. So it seals tight like when you vacuum your clothes to put them in a closet, those bags. So it's similar to what that is. And then they come out the bottom and the process just keeps going and going and it moves on to the next stage. Is that about accurate?
Yeah, so we can fit 2 of our biggest wall panels on each of these systems. Each 2 of those should be about 10 minutes process time. Then it gets fed into this.
Yep.
3 are curing and 1 is being loaded, unloaded. So then we have a continuous output and this thing will crank out panels really fast.
Wow. Okay, very cool. Very cool. And what's the length of these?
I believe it's 50 feet. So, you know, our biggest panel is in this version is 20 feet. But, you know, we have set up this factory to do larger units.
Yep.
Although I suspect we'll end up just with our hands full with the smaller units in this factory.
Can you do 2 units on one vacuum, like 2 walls, 2 20-foot walls?
Yeah, exactly. So every time the press is loaded, there'll be two big panels in there,
Right,
or even if there's some smaller ones, maybe let's say we do like interior division walls, there'll be even more.
You know, you can actually see on the bottom there, and we'll show that when we come back around, but where those panels will sit inside there. What do we have going on here, Galiano?
So this is a paint and sanding booth. Basically, the only purpose it serves is to get rid of the seams on the interior wall in the building. I'm not a big fan of this. I think we're going to end up with some solutions to get around this because this is just traditional paint and spackle and the way you would treat a regular you know, seam in a sheetrock.
Okay, got it. So the booths will get filled here. That one has doors. Is one different than the other?
Yeah, so one is sanding to put the mud on there, spackle to get rid of the seam, and then the other just paints the panel. They'll come out of this machine onto carts. They'll be fed into you know, these stations and just keep going through.
Right. So when they come out of here, down the line here, that's where a lot of the manual process is put into play. Is that accurate? So what's after the paint and sanding booth?
Yeah, so at that point, you know, you have a wall panel that has a pretty significant level of finish. And, you know, compare that to traditional wall assembly, it's just many steps are kind of gone from the process. Then it'll go through windows and electrical while it's just still a panel. So the windows are easy. Electrical, we have kind of a cool innovation there where there's like kind of tunnels or chases throughout all the walls, floor and ceiling. So there's no like drilling through studs or anything in a traditional electrical. And we'll just be sending in these kind of electrical wiring harnesses. Then those panels are pretty much finished and then they'll go and get assembled and put together into the final home and then, you know, folded up.
And folded up. And I mean, so what's interesting about this is really the most automated part that we're going to see because everything else is really, do I say it, plug and play?
Yeah, everything is, you know, pretty simple. And right now we're trying to keep it very basic. We're not trying to go crazy with automation. We need to make smart decisions as we move forward. We need to spend our money wisely. So what we want to do is figure out the whole process with the most basic equipment we possibly can. And then as we see fit, we'll add in that automation. This factory will get to a certain level of automation where it's kind of maxed out because it's only so big. And then hopefully at that point, we'll move on to a much bigger facility where we can break up all the processes into even more stations to make the whole flow happen even faster.
When are you looking at opening up the lines here? Now, and I say that we've had a lot of conversation yesterday when we were here. And, you know, the approval process, the safety inspections, all of the things that had to happen, even just to be in this building, especially during COVID and what's been going on, you know, has slowed it up a little bit, yes?
Yeah, it was a little frustrating because as we were doing the fit out on the building, we weren't actually allowed to come in and do anything except fit out. We weren't even allowed to sit in the office. So we had to wait until all that process was done. All the city inspections were done before we were even allowed to move in. And we ended up getting a little bit of a jump start because what we have right now is a temporary occupancy. There's still some stuff with inspections for fire suppression, but we're allowed to use everything except for those few items that still have outstanding inspections on them. So, you know, we just got in here last week and we are starting to turn on the equipment, learn the ropes, and then hopefully in a month or two, the first house comes out.
In a month or two. Perfect.
Yeah.
And that's the government. that you're doing, or is that something different?
Yeah, so the first order, we're fortunate enough to have a big order from the government. So it really allows us to focus on the manufacturing as we scale up the plant. So it's an order for 150 casitas, and we just figure out manufacturing. It's a great position because I don't have to worry too much about dealing with customers, dealing with financing, dealing with contractors, any of the other stuff. We can kind of put that on hold for a little bit until the manufacturing's dialed in.
Sure. From a consumer's perspective, you've been getting a ton of feedback on the social media. What is the feedback that you've been hearing from the consumers in regards to, I want one? Is there a lot of that happening?
Yeah, the amount of interest is off the charts. We've had tens of thousands of emails, massive amount of social media comments and messages as well. Basically, it's people coming up with every single use case you could ever imagine for a little room module. Everyone has a different thing that they want to do with it. And, it's everything from a backyard ADU to workforce housing to, many, many other crazy and wacky things that you could do with a room module as well. So it's really caught people's kind of imagination, I think.
Yeah, you're delivering one for my new studio, right? When I live in a house again.
Oh, you'll be the first one after the government, no problem.
What I think is really cool is we'll put it on the Boxabl truck on the back of the bed, and I can just use that as our home. As we travel, just open it up. We'll set it up that I can just plug it the plumbing and heating. We can just travel the country in it. So I know your dad's getting ready to join us. We're gonna head back here, but as we're walking, these are the vacuum machines, right? That are going to be picking up the panels. And I know, maybe just pan a little bit on this over here so they can see this. But what a lot of people are not seeing on the back end, and one, it's just a lot of space to walk. But two is, you have hundreds of windows, doors, refrigerators. This place is just packed full of product, ready to really get this line going.
Yeah, we've got everything we need for this first order. And, I expect it's going to take us, months to get this first 156 out, into early next year. So we have materials for that. But once we get up to speed, it should be hopefully about 300 houses a month. So at that point, we're going to have even more stuff in here, even more shelving to keep it on. And
300 houses a month.
Yeah, that's the planned max output for this.
175,000 square foot facility, just one.
Yep, on 2 shifts. That's what our projections are. So we'll see what we hit.
On 2 shifts. So we have 2 lines going, right? So you're looking at 2 lines, 2 shifts, 16, 20-hour days, somewhere in there.
Yep, exactly.
That's what we're looking at doing. Yeah. Perfect. So if you want, this is the Boxabl truck. Maybe show them the box. That's what we're going to jump off the off the cargo ramp and the loading ramp. And you know what? If you pan on those windows, I know we're not showing it, but we have some B-roll. There is a ton of people inside the building on that right side over there that are working in a big way. So why don't we go over here? I know your dad's going to join us here in a second. So we're going to switch back to this camera here. And we got to make room for your dad. Come on over here, Galiano. We'll put your dad in the center when he comes. So how important and how your dad in this process? Is it working out between you, or do you guys go fist to cuff every once in a while?
Whoa.
James.
There we go.
He almost hit me. I got that on video.
Wow, live.
Wow, that was awesome. So Paolo Tiramani is the other founder and the father of this being right here at the same time. I was just asking, how do you guys get along? Do you go fist to cuff everyone? I wouldn't go. Look at the arms on this guy. Well, I don't even want to stand next to you. You're making me look small. But so we just did a walkthrough. This has been a process for all of you, trying to get this from where it started and where it is now. Paolo, we've been talking to your son a lot. What has been your primary role here at Boxabl?
Right. So, yeah, great. So, great question. And you asked another question about how we get along.
Right.
That sort of feeds into our roles, and it's very interesting because we really have very different skill sets, and we.
Right. Just talk. I'm holding. You go ahead.
And so we just work things out. We don't have too many conflicts actually. We're very respectful of each other, and I think that's just a great way to work with a family. Galiano's had a number of very successful businesses prior, very different skill sets to mine with a good overlap. but very different. He's much more on the business and growth end, and I'm much more on the IP, intellectual property, patent, and innovation side. Really, he does everything very well.
Sure. And let me ask, what did you do before you decided you're going to build folding houses?
Yeah, absolutely. So for a couple of decades, I had a company that was fairly successful. It was an IP company, which for your viewers is an intellectual property licensing company. It's just a fancy way of saying that we sat around, invented things. IP sounds better than inventors.
Yeah.
Inventors sounds like you're crazy. And we would just come up with product. All the product have to have patent protection.
Okay.
And then we would license it to industry in the similar way that somebody would take like a musician or a songwriter or somebody that writes books, and they get paid a royalty. And we did that with inventions. And over a period of time, we said, okay, what's the biggest idea we can come up with as IP guys and fix a problem?
Sure.
And that's this guy behind us.
And it is fixing it. So, All right, everybody, we're live, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Please hit that like and share button right now. And if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, Dave Cooper Live, or to Boxabl's YouTube channel, you're wrong. You should be. Let's not wait any longer. Hit that subscribe and that like button. So, all right, let's get into the nuts and bolts in this. So it's time to produce affordable housing, right? We've waited long enough. The traditional way of how we've been building hasn't worked. The people before you have not got it right. We're just not there. We're falling behind. We're falling behind on technology. You guys have a very viable solution from everything that I have seen so far, and we've been traveling the country to really make a big dent in this. How are you seeing it personally?
In terms of the technology?
In terms of the technology and the marketplace, and really being able to deliver an affordable housing.
Yeah. So, I mean, so top line view, the marketplace is what we call a pre-industrial condition. Everything else is built in a factory. Galiano's probably mentioned some of this. Yeah. And the reason buildings are not building in a factory is because they're big. Right. And so the first thing we had to fix was the size. We fixed the size. They pack down to 8.5 foot wide, down pack to 20 foot. These are basically building modules, building boxes like big Legos to build anything. And that's one of the key breakthroughs. And then we've just dived into that, into further and further levels of refinement. You know, if you're out in the factory, if you're out in the field rather, and you have to climb up 4 stories and you're nailing things in the snow, in the sun, you know, it's not efficient. You can only move around small materials. That's why 2x4s are 2x4s and why they're small. We don't have that restriction whatsoever. We can build panels here up to 40 foot long in one big piece. And believe me, when we press that down with 250,000 tons, 250,000 pounds worth of pressure, it really makes for a unitary member that's never, ever going to come apart.
Ever going to come apart. So why don't we take a moment, if you're joining us, I want to get to the audience. We want to do some comments and questions. I mean, it's lit up in red and I'm seeing it all over the place. Jen, are we ready for some questions? Maybe we can go through some comments. Then we're going to come back to third-party inspections some more. We're going to come back to the precision and the assembly process of this. You know, what you mentioned about how many units a month you can put out. I mean, that's a really significant number out of a manufacturing facility of this size. So these are all really key things. And then we're going to talk about Elon Musk, because the world wants to know it. And he keeps saying, listen, as long as his dad doesn't tackle me, I'll beat it out of him. And I think his dad's going to protect him. All right, let's go to some comments and questions here real quick. Krista Price, exciting to get a sneak peek of the new Boxabl manufacturing space. Looking forward to following the journey once production starts. Thanks, Krista. Awesome.
We're definitely going to let people follow the journey, because we're going to be posting constant updates on YouTube, Instagram, all kind of stuff, because we're trying to get as much engagement and interest from people as we can. So that's very important to us.
And if you're producing that many units, you got to get them out to everybody.
Yep.
I love it. Yeah, go for it. Gilbert Meyer, great vision. We need to replace stick built. Gilbert Myers, thanks for joining us today from LinkedIn. Perfect. Question. Gilbert always follows the rules. He's got the cue there. We are looking for automated glue application. Can you share the manufacturer of your equipment? So Gilbert Myers is MMC3 out of Honduras, and they're doing a panel system, a little similar to what you're doing, but not the same.
After we order 10 more, I'll let you know. Just kidding. You can email me.
Yeah, you can reach out to me and I can put you in contact. Allison D. Here in the Midwest, we need basements for storm shelters. Can the casista be placed on top of a basement? Great question.
Yeah, Alison, absolutely. You can think of the casita products and our building shelves as you would any traditional stick-built or modular. So you can put them down on slabs, on posts, and full basements for your particular use application. You can also, we believe once we're done, we'll be able to register those as HUD homes, as trailers, as RV homes. And in fact, we think that the standards are so low in the industry, we plan to have a Boxabl standard code, and we'll work our way up through hopefully to the federal government and get an actual Boxabl standard, and so that the public can have the quality of product that they deserve and they expect from everything else in their life.
A Boxabl standard IRC code.
That's it.
Across the country, if not across the globe. Nah, he doesn't think big. I would love to see that. Okay, next one. All right, Joel Hutchins. What's happening, Joel? Plug and play the A in DFMA, designed for manufacturer assembly. And you guys really are an assembly line here. I mean, you have a little bit of manufacturing, but the majority of this is going to be just a big assembly line where you can put skilled people to work, non-skilled people to work, and get the same quality and same consistency out the door. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. It's completely, I forgot your name wrong, but the plug and play aspect is very, very important. We've basically devolved building construction down to the DNA, the cellular level, and then we've built it up as simply as we can. And it takes a very, very long time to make complicated things simple, but the payoffs just keep paying off forever. So we have plug and play in the factory. We've had Porsche come in, Porsche Consulting. They have 700 consulting engineers to help us set up a production line because they are numero uno in terms of production line know-how, automated production line, I mean. And then the product itself is plug and play. The factory is plug and play. This is our manufacturing cell. It's manufacturing cell number one. And the product themselves are very, very much stack and connect.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Joel Hutchins, for that question. John Soderberg. I'm connecting from Arizona, excited about the product. All right. Thanks, John, from YouTube. Tom Rennie. Awesome concept, and what a great product to assist with the housing needs. I would love to connect to discuss options. Well, there you go. You got to reach out to him. J-Lo Flicks. What's happening, J-Lo Flicks? I love the old, you see it? He has arms like you, actually. Hey, Benvenuti Tata. I'm saying it wrong. Benvenuti. You know how to say it?
I can work with this.
Hell, I want to work for you guys. That's all. What? Benvenuti Tutti. Thank you, Jen. Hell, I want to work for you guys.
I can answer that. Ciao bello, dammi una chiamata sul telefono, grazie.
All right, Google, I'm going to need you to translate that for me. David Antosiak. And if I get people's names wrong, I apologize. I'm not intentionally doing it. Incredible product, guys. Congrats on being so innovative. LinkedIn, love it. Stephen Hailstrom, can you tell again how you deal with electrical and plumbing?
Can you take one? I can take it. Yeah, the electrical and plumbing is very interesting. Part of the technology we have, patented technology, is our walls are smart. I actually hate that expression smart, but they really are smart. They are every about 30 inches or so. There is a chase on every panel, the floor, the ceiling, the walls, everything. A chase is simply a hole that runs through the middle of the panel. It doesn't have any thermal bridging. It's all very well insulated. And what that grid does, it's like a subway system. We have a main trunk line in the ceiling. And we can, in the factory, after the factory, in the field, we can add electric, we can add PEX for sprinklers. So it's a very, very flexible building shell system with this first baby, this casita we've configured. And then generally water, waste, electric, all ports to one corner of the casita for, back to that expression, plug and play.
Well, and it is. Here, listen, if we simplify the process of what we're building and we stick to that process, you can get the efficiencies, you can get the benefits. Each and every home that is coming off the line for the casita, you know where the wiring, where the plugs, where the lighting needs to be down to the millimeter. There's no guessing, which makes efficiency super easy, and why you hired Porsche, because they do it every day. Is that an accurate comment?
Absolutely.
Perfect. All right. Chad Crosby, been very interesting following Boxabl for over a year, getting so close to production. It's not just getting close. I mean, These guys are here. I know you guys probably told them to quiet down, but I mean, they're working all around here to get this thing ready to go. Yeah,
absolutely. We are working 24/7. And we could work 25/7 if we had an extra hour in the day to get the product. Our customers are the number one thing here. The customer is absolutely number one. That's how we start and end our day, and we're working very hard to get to production.
All right, thank you for that question. All right, Gilbert Meyer, are your internal panels FRP? Fire resistant panels, I'm assuming, is what he's going for?
No, I think it's fiber reinforced.
Fire reinforced panels.
polymer.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
Yeah, so that's a plastic system. It's like kind of like fiberglass, I believe. We have looked at that. We didn't end up going with it. We may circle back in the future. They do make some pretty cool FRP I-beam. Our floor and ceiling both have a steel I-beam in them. Okay. So that is a candidate to swap out for an FRP I-beam in the future.
There you go. Great question, Gilbert. Thank you so much. David Barajas, looking at local building code heights, how tall outside height for one unit and how outside height for 2 units? Okay, so I'm assuming stackable. What are the top dimension height wise?
Super easy. 10.5 for 1, 21 for 2, if my math is correct.
10.5 1, 21 for 2.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I mean, that's great. I mean, across the country, I mean, building codes vary place to place. So that would work from what I understand in most building codes for sure.
Yeah, it's a 9.5 interior ceiling height.
Yeah.
And then the thickness of the panel on the floor and ceiling is another 6 inches on floor and ceiling. That's when it gets to 10.5.
All right, listen, everybody, if you have a question, try and put a Q in front of it. Jennifer is working hard behind the scenes to keep up with everything out there and puts the questions up. We have about 10 minutes left on the show here. We will try and get to as many as we can. So if you have some great questions, put them in there. Okay, John. Vidor Chandra, thank you for joining us. What is the material used for making the wall panels? Are the external and internal panels different? We just kind of touched on that, I think, right? In some aspects.
Yeah, so the internal and external panels are the same. They're basically layers of concrete board, steel, insulation, and a version of non-flammable ceramic board called MgO, magnesium oxide. So it's a laminate of cocktail, really, of different materials that provide us with all the elements we need at the highest stiffness, the highest performance, quality, and the lowest cost.
Thank you for the question, Vitor. Hopefully I said that right. All right, next question. From YouTube, Blair Bames, do you have a factory fabricated base foundation system?
We do not. Actually, we think some of the printed product out there could do that in the future rather well. What we will be providing on our website is a full supplement of additional downloads. For example, because we're systemized back to that DNA level discussion, our basement drawings for either a slab or posts or a full basement can be completely systemized, very, very simple. And we can put this and roof trusses and all sorts online as we grow. We can do the work once, and then tens of thousands of customers can download them. That sounds like a good deal for everybody to me.
Yeah, one thing worth mentioning on that is that the floor on our units is incredibly strong and rigid. So that means the foundation requirements are much less. We're not, building with stick framing on a foundation. We're simply using the foundation to anchor this thing into the ground. So that opens up the option for people to use the lowest cost foundation solution. And so that's, one of the many other smaller, friction points that we've tried to reduce with our system throughout the process.
Great. All right. Thank you for that question. Alexandra Cagney. Hey, Alexandra. Great concept. You guys need to team up with Prefab of all-in-one HVAC D unit manufacturer, Minute Air. Huh. I wonder who's the founder of Minute Air.
His name might be Alexandre.
It might be. And Alexandre, he's been on our show, Building Science, quite often. He really does have a cool product, and he has a point. It might be something to take a look at.
Yeah, please send us info. Hello@Boxabl. We'll take a look.
Give us a call.
There you go. There you go. Thank you. J-Lo Flix is back. Lofaro. Did I say that right?
Might be from another hemisphere, but yes, I apologize.
Might be from another hemisphere. All right. Gilbert Meyer's back. Man, Gilbert, you're loading up the questions. What is your total factory time to finish a small house?
Take that softball.
Yeah, so the basically the final output is going to be one house every 90 minutes. We just have to ensure that none of the stations take more than 90 minutes so the house can keep moving through there. Hopefully we'll be able to do even better than that, but we'll see how it goes. Right now we're projecting about 3,600 houses for the year on 2 shifts and a house coming out every 90 minutes.
That's great.
If I may, just to give you an idea of the scale and our ambitions, a Ford F-150 comes off the line every 58 seconds. Much more complicated than what we're doing. So let's see how low we can go if we take the Ford F-150 as our race competition.
Yeah, and you should if you don't make a lot of changes on it. And we're going to get into how much customization, and we're also going to get into showing you the casita. There will be some videos after this where we do full reviews of this product, Jennifer and I. So make sure you keep an eye out for that and subscribe to the channel to check it out. John Sutterberg, do you have projections of how long your completion offline date would be if ordering a home today? Also, when you are ramped up at full capacity, how many homes will you be building a month? And I know we talked about that, but let's answer it one more time.
Well, right now we just have an absolutely massive waiting list. So not really sure how it's all going to work out. We're going to try to approach the list tactfully. And the most important thing here is that we're going to be looking to the next step as soon as we possibly can. And that next step is not this factory that will produce 3,600 houses a year. Obviously, demand for housing is much larger than that. So if we're successful here, I'll be making the case to go to that next level, which hopefully won't be a $50 million factory like we're in now. It'll be a several billion-dollar factory, which is where we need to go to take advantage of the mass production automation and also to satisfy the demand both here in the US and everywhere else in the world.
Great question. Thank you for that. Vignesh, I'm like Dursami, hopefully I got that right. What is exactly sandwiched between the exterior and interior cladding of the wall panel? So what are you putting between the cladding is what he's asking.
Steel insulation, wiring, PEX if it needs sprinklers, plumbing, all the usual things you find in a home, except they're all organized in one space.
We have it. Thank you for your question. David Barajas, very energy efficient. How about air quality? All right, so this was part of my list. Let's talk a little bit about energy efficiency, reducing carbon footprint, all the hot topics that are out there right now. Where are we on the energy efficiency of these product?
Yeah, so the situation we have is really absolutely amazing. We've done some preliminary energy calculations on this thing, and it's off the charts. If you look at existing structurally insulated panel products, which is what our principles are based off of, you'll see how well they perform in energy. Our system kind of goes a step further than those ones, and we think that every house that we make by default is going to have absolutely incredible energy efficiency, and that's due to the fact that the walls have uninterrupted EPS foam insulation throughout them. So that means very limited thermal bridging, where in a traditional house you would lose energy through studs. Additionally, the envelope is very tight, so the air we're conditioning, we're keeping inside. It's not leaking through gaps in the walls or an open wall cavity or anything like that. And then the quality of the air is handled by mechanical solutions and mechanical ventilation. So we use a mini split system that heats or cools the air inside. And for this small unit, I don't think it's necessary, but in bigger ones, we could add heat recovery ventilators as well to get in that fresh air. But certainly it's a better situation than traditional ducting, where you have kind of, unsanitary and less energy efficient ducting running through the houses.
Yeah. Well, who needs air and ducting in your house? I mean, it's going to be so built, so insulated, and so tight, right? Maybe in Vegas. It was 122 degrees when I got in my car yesterday. Wow.
Yeah.
I was like, it's hot here.
We live in the desert.
You do live in the desert. And we will be doing the review on this. We're going to look at it. We'll look at the hinges. We'll talk about the product with both of you, and we're going to be putting that video up as well so everybody can really see the fit and finish of the product. Okay. Blair Bames from YouTube. What are the HVAC options? Hydronic, how tight is the envelope, and what type of air exchange are you seeing in a finished unit? So there's going to be two things I think we should answer at one here. How customizable is it? Because that's part of the customizable side of this. And, obviously the unit on the mechanicals and the HVAC question. Who wants to take it?
I don't know the numbers on air exchange or anything like that. We've done the blower door tests on our kind of prototype units, and then we'll do the blower door test on our production units as well. And I have not heard of hydronic. Do you know what that is?
Maybe it's water heat, right? You're looking at hydronic flooring, water-based heat, or even water-based furnaces or heating systems is what they're asking.
So this is like subterranean tanks where the water's temperature is controlled by the.
You'd have to run the water through the pipes.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think all those are an option. Here's the deal, everybody. If you're out there, if you're a consumer watching, I know we got a lot of consumers right now. Is to make it efficient, you got to find the most efficient products that work on the production line. But to find the most efficient products on the production line, you also have to find the products that are going to keep the consumer happy when they're in their house. So, right there's two sides to this. It's not just what's the most efficient; it's what's going to give my customer the best experience.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great question, actually. So factories want to do one thing: repeatability. They want repeatability. So if it's a nut and a bolt, that's what they want to make forever and a day. However, our customer, who is ultimately more important than the factory, needs diversity and customization, just like everything else. When you order your car, you order your iPhone, you order your shirts, collar size, and everything else. And so what we've done is we've thread the needle between giving the factory what it needs to raise the quality and lower the price, but we've given the customers, as we grow beyond the casita, really ultimate customization. There's very little you can't build with the Boxabl technology, and we've taken care of the heavy lifting. We take quite literally the heavy lifting in terms of providing these building shells, as we can see with the casita. That's just everything. Yeah. So when it gets on site, and one of the interesting things is with architects. Architects obviously create very beautiful buildings, and we thought to ourselves early on, how is an architect going to react? Are they going to hate us, basically? And it was 180 degrees. They love us for the same reasons. We take care of the heavy lifting, and it allows creative folks to be creative.
I believe that wholeheartedly. It does take creative folks, and architects typically are creative, so looking at things differently, in my mind, should be part of what they do every day. All right, let's go on. Question, Steve Alapot. How many contractors do you currently have in your network? There's a great question.
Yeah.
Right now, since we're at early stages, we don't officially have everyone. However, we do have a massive list of inquiries from interested contractors. So we're going to have quite a large network. Once we're ready to turn that online, we're going to create a little program for them, and then we're going to go out to all of them and say, hey, you guys want to sign up for this? And we think they're going to absolutely love it, because this is going to change their process from 6 months average build time to create a building, and headaches with multiple subcontractors and over cost overruns and all kind of issues, and just simplify that down. 90% of the heavy lifting is done here in the factory, and hopefully they'll be able to do more jobs per year and a lower cost and offer a higher level of quality to the customers.
Go ahead, man.
And we'll have Boxabl certified contractors. We will be putting together a Boxabl University. Yes. It will be online. We prefer you to come in person, and there will be different grades of installer. Everybody's happy. It means the homeowner gets what they need. They get someone to install the product they know is certified. The certified installer gets to turn more projects, get sales leads from us, and everybody is keeping an eye on everybody else.
I love that. You hear that, universities? If you're out there, we've been live streaming into universities across this country with our show. So there you go. There's going to be some training, maybe some training for the universities too, just food for thought.
Yes.
Let's bring the kids that are coming out up to speed. So across this great country of ours, they can do it. But guess what? It's only United States. There's Europe. There's South America. There's all these other countries that want a Boxabl. Can I put a Boxabl on a shipping container boat and go?
Yeah, so there's a couple of levels to that. The Boxabl packs down and it becomes a shipping container, and it has something on ISO corners on the four corners. That's what the cranes and the cranes from for the train yards and the boat yards use to pick these things up. So it's very standardized. It has fork pockets as well to move it around. So it is built to be very, very movable all around the world. Ultimately, however, even though we're very efficient to ship, we need factories around the world. And different countries have different local tastes, different flavors, different architectural styles, different rules, different laws. And so we'll be having partner factories. We're having those discussions now. It is a very big world to fill, and we can do it with partner factories that can provide a local flavor product.
I love it. Local flavor for your housing. Only by Boxabl. All right, next comment, please. Gary Fleischer, the mod coach in the house. Gary, always a pleasure to see you. One of my biggest friends and colleagues, and I'm a huge fan of Gary, the mod coach. So
Me too. Love that guy.
yeah, Gary's awesome. We've been in this industry a long time together. There's very few of us that really are so excited to see it changing. Gary is one of them. So, all right, Gary, I hope you and Peg are doing well. I wanted to read what Gary had there, if I could put that back up on there. I get to talking, and Jen gets excited, and then I bounce around. The factory and process looks great. Great job, and the best of everything for you and the Boxabl family from the mod coach.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, very good. All right, next comment, please. All right, Stephen Hillstrom. What does Boxabl feel is the biggest innovation they have developed?
So that's actually a very interesting question. It takes a long time to figure out what questions to ask, actually, and what the problems really are and what the problems really aren't. I would say the way we approach R&D, always in product development, is we look at what we call the problem pie, pizza pie, your favorite type of pie, and then we slice it up and we attack all of those elements with equal weight and intensity. But obviously, shipping is huge, systemization is huge, factory production is huge, and then getting to the granular level inside the wall. So I would say we probably have about 7 or 8 really, really core inventions, and that's exactly what's needed to change the industry on a global scale.
And to be able to manage it. So,
yeah.
Well, listen, everybody, we are out of time. However, we're not going to leave without asking the question, when are we going to find out, is Elon Musk actually living in this? Did he really buy one from you? Well, I got a couple questions, so don't say no yet. Is this going to Mars? Are you working on an airtight prototype that you can pump oxygen in or make your own oxygen? We want to know all the above, because there's a world out there waiting to hear this. Please don't tell me you have a silent NDA, not allowed to talk, compete.
I will answer. So I'll give you some breaking news, actually.
Breaking news.
On the Mars Boxabl, we're just having a bit of fun. And we just had a bit of fun. Our guys did a very, very cute video. And we had some great comments on the videos, like, how is that thing going to seal in Mars? Well, it's not. It was just a bit of fun.
Okay, well, there was more questions on that. Galiano, come on, spill the beans. I personally had Elon Musk's secretary take him out so he doesn't hear it. Go ahead.
Thank you for asking, but we just cannot make any comment on anything like that. Maybe ask him, see what he says about it.
All right, so here's what I'm going to do. We're going to drive this truck off of the ramp here. I'll be driving. Maybe he'll spill the beans before we hit the ramp part of it. Who knows? Well, listen, everybody, we are in Boxabl in Las Vegas, Nevada. We are going to be releasing more videos. We're going to be doing some behind the scenes here, and we are going to do a really in-depth video of the casita with our friends here at Boxabl, and you might just be surprised on what we have to say about it. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Pleasure meeting you. Man, pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right, everybody, listen, hit that subscribe button one more time, and if you are not following these two, please follow them. They are changing the way we build. It takes different minds to take our industry into the next century. These guys are doing it. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.